So I get a lot of questions about this on social media, and I don't ever address it. And so I'm just going to address it now and kind of get out of the way because it's going to help us with this conversation. And I don't know where y'all are, and honestly, I don't care. So I think that Joe Biden is doing an amazing job. And I think that Donald Trump is the worst president in U.S. history. All right, everybody freeze. One dude put some food in and just goes. He was thinking like, I'll kill you right now. Ain't waiting for no damn parking lot, boy. I'll do it right now. Some of you laughed. Some of you looked at the ground. Some of you felt weird. We're going to talk about conflict. We're going to talk about conflict. We talked about money. We talked about sex. And we're going to talk about conflict. And then at the end of this, we're going to invite some couples up, and we're going to do some conflict coaching, me and Rachel, live. And then we're going to open up the floodgates with some live Q&A. And I want you to be brave. We've already had an example of bravery with the two jackrabbits who live next door to the middle schoolers. Just kidding. Sorry, dude. It's just... It's a great problem to have. All right. So it's probably going to be a different conflict conversation than you've ever had. I don't want to think about conflict so much because conflict is a part of life. It's a way of being. And avoiding conflict is like avoiding oxygen. It's dumb. It's a waste of time. When you think about conflict, I want you to start thinking about a threat is introduced. It's a threat. It's a threat to your relationship, your sense of security, your values, the way you think things should be. It could be a threat to your body, but it triggers this primal reaction in your brain. Now, when there is a threat that happens, it's really amazing the way our bodies are designed. Think about if there was a tiger over here, and the tiger just walked up the stairs, and it looked like it was going to murder me. My brain does not want me going like this. I've been hearing about a cute petting tiger going around. I wonder if that's it. And my back itches so bad, and those claws look very scratchy. I bet they could scratch. My brain doesn't want me thinking critically. It just wants me to run, to get out of Dodge. So this is... I was not a good art student, so ta-da. This is our brain. This is our prefrontal cortex up here. That's the part of our brain that evolutionary psychologists say is relatively new. The last, couple of 100 jillion years or whatever. That's our thinking brain. That's our, hey, if we build this now, if we save this now, then in 100 years our grandkids could fill in the blank. That's that part of our brain, the thinking brain. This will help us get this. That is our amygdala. That is what some scientists call the lizard brain, the OG part of your brain. It's at the very top of your brainstem. It's where your nervous system rattles. That has one job: don't die. And this sucker, this little almond-shaped amygdala, part of your brain, is scanning your environment 24/7, 365 for threats. How many of you have ever walked into a room and you knew, I need to go? I need to get out of here. My wife used to tell me when we were in college and we were dating, she would tug on my arm and she would say, we need to go. And I'd be like, why? And she'd say, because your jaw is starting to clench up a little bit. And I would say, well, because that guy's an idiot. And she would say, we need to go. I'd be like, no. 100% of the time she said we need to go, we should have gone. She was never wrong. Scanning all the time, scanning all the time, scanning all the time. You experience a physiological reaction. And when a threat is introduced, when conflict is introduced, this sucker goes offline. It's why we're all still here, because our ancestors did not sit there and look and go, oh my gosh, I wonder if that's a cute bear. Let's hug it and find out. It just ran. Or it fought. Or you played dead, and then it gnawed off part of your leg and then dragged you under a pile of leaves to eat you the next day, and you crawled to safety. And then you found somebody that loved you, and y'all made kids, and we're all here. That's how we lived. And yet, we forget about this when we get into conflict, when we get into threats. There's 4 primary responses that the body goes through when it's under threat. And we're going to talk through them a little bit because it's really important about conflict in marriages. Okay? So, 4 of them. Sometimes your response changes on different topics and people, especially depending on your past experiences. If you ever listen to my show, I talk about this a lot. Here's a great example. Our body is always dropping little GPS pins in situations. And it calls upon those situations all throughout our life. So, for instance, if you, as a little girl, knew when you heard Dad's car coming up the driveway, I'm just going to get real small. I'm just going to back on out. I'm going to go in my room and shut the door. If Dad comes in kind of hot, kind of angry, it's probably best if I did this. Or you heard Dad's car coming up the driveway, and you're a little boy. And the car was coming up real fast. And your heart started beating a little bit. And you knew it was probably good if you distract Dad, because if you didn't, he was going to get all over Mom. And so I'm going to, hey Dad, you want to go play? You want to go blah, 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 blah. Look over here. Your body puts a little GPS pin. And the one man that was supposed to love you beyond all things. Love and connection, not safe. GPS pin, ping. And then you go to college. You do high school, you go to college, you start your first job, you meet somebody, oh, we're falling in love, he's so cute, she's so pretty. And then you get married. And then you're just messing around in the kitchen, and the car drives up the driveway. And your body, just without you even thinking about it, you go ahead and finish what you're doing, and as that front door opens, you're heading off into the bedroom. Because way over here, your body put a GPS pin in that car coming up the driveway. And love and connection and safe relationships. And it went way over here and said, let's just go ahead and go. Let's get small. Or that comes up the driveway and your husband, you're just in there doing your work and you hear the car come and you go running to the door. Hey, how was your day? What's going on? Is there fun things? And you're just a poor wife and you just got done working. And the last thing you want to do is get assaulted by a 9-year-old in a 28-year-old body. And he's going, and you're just like, will you stop? It's just that GPS pin. And these things carry with us all through our lives. And we don't even know. And if you hear the phrase, which is true, you marry your unfinished business, usually the person who gets small when the car drives up marries somebody who is scared to death of rejection. So I go walking through my front door, and just as I see my wife head to the other room, and my body goes, oh, she's leaving you because you're a loser, and you were never worth love in the first place. And I go, no, I am going to love you. To which her body goes, oh, he's coming for us. Get the hell out of here. And she runs. And I'm going, and that's when you just go sit on the toilet and scroll for a long time. And so our body, when we were kids, put GPS pins in everything. In my house, talking about money, my dad was a cop. He was a homicide detective and a SWAT hostage negotiator. He was an amazing man. And there were seasons of my childhood when we had no money. We couldn't afford groceries. And then my dad stopped being a policeman one weekend and became a minister at a large church. And that same trend continued. And I remember at a very young age thinking, if that's what the public thinks of public service, I'm out, because I want groceries for my family. And so I quit talking about money, and I just started trying to make as much as humanly possible. Fast forward, I'm married. We owe $1 jillion in student loan debt and a house we couldn't afford and car notes and all the stuff. And my wife says, hey, we need to talk about our budget. Whoosh. My body went to war. Or my body would shut down because I was a loser. It could be about sex, it could be about money, it could be about where we're going to live, it could be about public schools versus private schools, it could be about whose house we go to for Christmas, it could be about a million things. But everybody's body is responding all the time to these little GPS things. And what we do is we bomb our spouse. This is your fault. You're making me feel this way. It's not. It's our bodies. Okay? And here's the deal. Our bodies aren't broken. If you were abused growing up, your body's doing exactly what it was designed to do, which is to protect you. If money was a scary thing growing up and there was never enough, and your parents fought and dad left and there was not groceries in the house, then of course you don't want to talk about it when you're old. Your body's doing its job. And our job is to say, I wasn't okay then, but I'm okay now. Body's trying to take care of you. So, sometimes when you're angry at your husband, you're actually fighting your dad. Sometimes when you're angry or you're avoiding your wife, you're actually running from your mom or your dad or vice versa. So instead of talking about conflict, let's talk about what our bodies do, okay? 4 responses. Number 1, fight. How many of you are fighters when conflict comes? In counseling, we often call this the one-up position. A couple of months ago, I was with Josephine, and out of nowhere, we were standing in line, and this little boy walked by with his dad. His dad was behind him. And the little boy, my daughter's standing right here, and this little boy just walked by, minding his own, like we were just standing there, and he just goes, ah, and spit. Oh my gosh, I almost murdered a 9-year-old. And then I looked at his dad, and his dad did this. Dude, there's a course they have in Texas high schools. It's called How to Murder and Get Away with It. Everything in my body almost came out on that guy. I was like, you have a YouTube show now, you can't do that. You have a podcast, you can't do that. You have a podcast, you can't do that. Getting big, physical intimidation, raised voice, strong language, violence, name calling. Freaking idiot. So stupid, you're a dummy. Punching holes through sheetrock. I didn't hit her. Shoving furniture, slamming cabinet doors. Threats. I'm just going to leave. Belittling. Ooh, you're just like your mom. It's fighting. Fight, fight, fight. Almost never. In that situation, if I had knocked that guy's teeth out of his head, the judge would have been like, that's fair, you're free to go. But almost never, when we're ready to fight in a marriage relationship, is it about the other person. It's about what the other person is setting off inside of us, what we are experiencing. The second response our bodies have to threats is to flight, to flee, to run. How many of you run? How many of you just get out? In counseling, we call it the one down position. This was me during money conversations. I would just shut the system down. Whatever, it's cool. Guilt tripping, yeah, you just spend whatever you want to spend. I'll just sit over here and starve to death, even though I make most of the money, so just do whatever you're going to do, it's fine. Silent treatment, don't raise your hand, but husbands are the worst. Well, that's not true. Women are pretty gnarly silent treatmenters too. Husbands have the Sunday afternoon dad. That's what my wife calls it. She said you go in and you would sit on the couch and turn on a game, and you just say nothing. But the whole house knew that there was like this grizzly bear sitting on the couch in that area over there. And if they walked by and said, "Hey, what's up, Dad?" I'd be like, "What? What? Huh?" And you make that squinchy face, as though they just whispered something in Arabic, and you're like, "What?" And it's just your kid, and they're like, "Hey, hi, Dad." And you're like, "Okay, I'm okay." And then your wife comes in and goes, "What's wrong?" And I go, "Nothing. What? I can't watch the game in my own house." And I make it her fault. She used to say, she goes, "You disappear in our house, but you're right there. You just disappear." Withholding affection, withholding sex, hiding, the one down position. Mother-in-laws are the best at this. "Where do you want to eat?" "I don't care." "Oh, cool, let's just go get fried chicken." "Oh, well, y'all know I don't eat fried chicken, so I guess I'll just die. Y'all have fun." That is a power move, dude. That is just, instead of grabbing the boat from the top and being like, "I don't eat fried chicken," and getting your way that way, it's just like, "Okay, I'll just wither away and die." It's the same move. And dads do it too. "Well, if my wife would just whatever, then our lives wouldn't suck so bad, but whatever." And wives do it too. The third one, freeze. When our body copes, completely disengaging, going still and quiet. I took a call on TRS, or maybe it was on my show. Somebody had a 20-year best friend. They were at a wedding party, and his 20-year best friend his wife was there, and he had left to go do something. Now, I don't know if you're like me, but I'm thinking of my friend John and his wife Jennifer. She's one of my best friends on the planet. Thinking of my friend Todd and his wife Melissa. She's one of my best friends in the world. One of my close friends, Alex, his wife Tracy, and on and on and on. It wouldn't be weird at all for me to leave with my friend Todd and my wife in my house. That wouldn't be weird at all. Except in this situation, his 20-year best friend walked over and grabbed his wife and pulled her up and kissed her. And she froze. Boom. Her body went. And there was some frustration on the call, and I had to walk him through it. He's like, "She didn't try to punch him. She didn't try to run." I was like, "No, bro, her body shut the system down. It's a threat response. It's not because she was into it, you weirdo." Unable or unwilling to express thoughts or feelings in conflict. How many of you just feel tongue-tied? Or you talk and you feel like you don't make any sense? Creating physical distance to avoid or into conversation. Just don't get out of bed. Here's a good one. Remember the first time when it's like 7 months into your first child and you hear him crying and then you both in bed go silent? You're both breathing just normal. And then and whoever exhales first has to get up and go deal with the kid. It's so awesome. Pretends to be busy. This is freeze. And I'm one who believes that anxiety and depression are on the same trend line. They're simply our bodies responding to circumstances and situations. And if you can see, if your body responds to fleeing or to fighting, you're probably going to be more anxious. And if your body responds to shutting it down, compressing, or another word for compress is to depress, then depression may be how your body responds to things. The fourth one is one we don't talk about very much. It's not as common, but it's very real, which is fawn. You defend the aggressor. You nuzzle up and get really close. It's the way Evander Holyfield fought Mike Tyson. Seriously, the first one, Mike Tyson had this move where he would sit back on his back haunch and throw an uppercut that would knock people's heads into a fifth dimension. And when people saw this move happening, and it happened like lightning, everybody on Earth's instinct is to do this. And when they did this, they actually created the space that Mike Tyson needed to clear that punch. And Evander Holyfield worked day and night so that when this move started to happen, he leaned in, which meant the punch hit him here instead of here. And it frustrated Mike Tyson so much he bit his ear off. It's getting so close that you can't hit me, you can't hurt me. You often see people in abusive situations and you're like, why? How does she get so close? Because that's where she's safest. It can happen through sexual contact, through really close. I took a call on my show where I was literally arguing with a woman who was being abused, and she kept saying, hold on, but he's a good man. And I was saying, no, he's not. Yes, he is. Her only way to stay safe was to defend this guy. And he was a terrible human. It's fine. Everything's fine. Whatever you want, it's cool. Use sexuality, deny the presence of a problem. Now, here's what's important. These 4 responses, they're not about character. If you feel yourself getting angry and you feel yourself ready to confront in a conflict, you're not a bad guy. You're not a bad wife. That's awesome. Your body's doing what your body's doing. It's what you do with that confrontation. If you start to pull back, I used to hide, and now I'll say, hey, I need 30 minutes. Great, cool. And I can circle back and come back. My body's going to do what my body's going to do. I can run and say, you keep coming at me with all these money fights, these money issues, all these questions about my expenses. It's perfectly normal to buy 14 guitars and a bunch of bullets. Don't you watch the news? We have to have all the bullets and coffee and toilet paper. The key here in conflict is not the conflict. The key here is recognizing when your body's doing what your body's doing. Fight, flee or flight, freeze or fawn. If you can master not controlling this, but just calling it out when it's happening, you can say, my body's telling me to get the heck out of here. I'm going in. I can tell my husband's really uncomfortable right now, and when I was a kid and my dad got uncomfortable, I better get the crap out of here. I'm going in. My wife just said this thing, and for some reason my body's trying to defend me by fighting. I'm not going to hide, but I'm not going to yell either. Hey, can we talk about what you just said? Not right now, in 30 minutes? Cool. And then you go outside and scream, oh my gosh, you're the worst. I'll get it out, that's fine. Then I'm going to come back to the table, okay? None of these responses are an excuse to be an ass, an ASS. You can't just attack and be like, I'm sorry, the guy said I'm a fighter. You can't do that. Remember when the Enneagram comes out and you have an employee and they're like, hey, you are late. And they're like, so sorry, I'm a 4. It's not an excuse. It's for you to know. It's about growing in self-awareness. You're going to have conflict every day of every week of every year of your marriage. And if you don't have conflict, you're still having conflict. It's about what is your body trying to protect you from and being self-aware about that and putting it on the table. Honey, every time you come home and talk about this, my body wants to run. But I want to be present with you, but I can't be present with you when you've been drinking. I can't be present with you when you cuss. I can't be present with you when you come firing in from being at work. That's about you, okay? I want us to reframe conflict. Starts with awareness. It's an opportunity for deeper connection and intimacy. It's about awareness. All right, so let's do this. Go to the practical ideas. All right. Most of us, when we practice this, here's a good way to practice. Give your spouse permission to talk into your life. Because most of us don't recognize it's happening because it's been happening our whole lives. Here's a great example. When I go to fight mode, I will feel my wife's hand gently do this. That's it. It can be under the table. It can be, and sometimes she has her hand like this. We're standing by each other at an event or something, and she'll hear somebody say something, and she'll feel me tense, and she'll just go like this. And then my whole body goes, because she's just noticing we're moving over into fight. Or when I feel her start to pull away, because I'm a lot, I'll say, will you stay with me? And she'll say, I need 10 minutes. And I don't get my feelings hurt, and I say, awesome, 10 minutes. It's about us seeing it in each other, because we can often see it in other people, especially with our husbands and our wives. Be patient with each other as you process this, because this is hard to learn. But the next time you're in a conflict, I've talked about this all weekend, and I'll keep talking about it. Your hand right here means a lot. I can feel it. Right here. I'm trying to take off. I'm starting to shut the whole thing down. I'm going to stay present with you. And what you might find over time with your spouse, my wife and I have a rule: no deep conversations after 9 p.m. Because she's too tired, and I go into dreamy, probably doing a lot of mushrooms land. I'm like, well, what happens if a meteorite comes and hits the earth? Are we prepared? And she's like, oh my gosh, can we go to bed? So we don't have fights after 9. We don't have deep discussions after 9. It's just something we've learned over time. That's cool. It's awesome.